Chris, William Nylander doesn't have a new contract, but he does have a new position. He'll start training camp at center. Why are the Leafs doing this?
It's all about depth. I think that if you look at the way the roster is at this point in time, maybe a little light down the middle. And, John Tavares is getting up there in age. The Leafs have the main pieces still in place, the same chess pieces on the board at forward, but, things change over time. And I think, it's kind of an intriguing time for them to try this, given, A, William Nylander needs a new contract. I think it's an opportunity for him to prove, maybe a degree of value if he can last as a center. But B, it sounds like it came from Brad Treliving, the new general manager of the Leafs, suggested this because it seemed in the past that Sheldon Keefe would try it from time to time, maybe be forced into it by injuries, but was never that married to the idea of Nylander as a center. But this time around, it sounds like it's going to get a long run. I'm hearing that he's going to start with Calle Yarncrook on one wing, Max Domi, so that looks to me maybe like it's a second line type situation. And look, it's a long season, it's a long training camp. We'll see where things end up. But, at least to begin, the fact that Nylander goes to center, I think if it works, really changes the dynamic of the Leafs forward group.
So Nylander starting his contract year, and oftentimes when a star player enters his contract year, you worry about it becoming a distraction, but it really did not feel like a distraction, at least for day one.
Almost a non-story, kind of strange, I would say, for how these things go. I remember a couple years ago, Morgan Rielly came to camp without a contract, similar situation. It felt like a bigger deal, far more sort of pointed questions about that. Even last year with Austin Matthews, he was 2 years out from when he could have an extension, start and take place, and there was a lot more sort of focus on that. But it didn't end up being the way it went here on the opening day. Now, there's still a chance. Really, Nylander didn't speak to reporters yet. He'll probably do that on Thursday. So, this is not a storyline that's disappearing entirely. But I think part of this is probably driven by the fact that, from my understanding, there really has not been a whole lot of contract talk going back to really the start of the summer. And as a result of that, I think both sides are kind of comfortable with where they're at. The Leafs, of course, would love to have Nylander signed as soon as they can. Brad Treliving, again, calling it a priority to get him signed. But, now there's some time maybe for some face-to-face meetings. And Treliving was quite, I would say, complimentary of Nylander, saying he really has come to appreciate how hard he works, how much he cares. Certain things he maybe didn't have the impression when he was on the outside. But now they're inside the walls again together. And I think that both sides are comfortable letting this one breathe a little bit, and it's probably going to take some time.
Treliving called Nylander a cool cat. And as you mentioned, Chris, we expect to hear from Nylander after practice on Thursday. We will not be hearing from Matt Murray for some time. He'll start the season on long-term injured reserve. Is there any chance he plays this season?
It doesn't sound like it. Reading between the lines, the Leafs didn't declare that in any way. A fair bit of sort of mystery around this one. Matt Murray, of course, was quite injured in his first season last year as a Maple Leaf, but by the end of the year, he had been cleared potentially to play in the playoffs. He didn't get the chance to do so, and it sounds as though in the course of his off-season work that he's taken a turn here. And this is a player that's been so injured over his career. I would hate to speculate on what it might be, and the Leafs at this point don't want to say, beyond mentioning that he's going to have a surgery here within the next week, a significant surgery. Brad Treliving called it, and it just doesn't get the sound or the feel that this is going to be, he says it's months really, not weeks, that they're looking at for a timeline. And so we're going to have to wait to see how this goes. But I would say at this point in time, with them bringing in Martin Jones as an experienced third option, but with Ilya Samsonov and Joseph Woll already here in the goaltending position, very unlikely we see Matt Murray this season.
The other Leaf that's going to start on long-term injured reserve this season is Jake Muzzin. No surprise, Treliving saying that the defenseman is not going to play this year, the final year of his contract.